Welcome back to House of Valkyries. All things soul blazing, soul on fire, trailblazing soul missions, headquarters for Valkyries. Valkyries 6 starts in 8 or 9 days, on October 8th. And yeah, we're here to jam all things Valkyries, which is energetics, sacred energetics, embodiment, emotional mastery, and practical magics. And I'm your host, Carly Raemer, and we are joined today by Heather, who also goes by Cybil Unrest. That's her burlesque name. Heather is a burlesque dancer, teacher extraordinaire, and I think so, and a confidence coach. And Heather was with us last Valkyries. She came to retreat and is coming back for more Valkyries and really walking her medicine woman path in this world. Hi.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me. I was like, yes, of course I'll come talk about Valkyries. I love Valkyries.
Hell yeah. Well, great. Let's start there. What do you love about Valkyries?
Um, I love the whole journey. I love how it started. I had no idea what it was. Um, I don't know why, but this is what's coming to me right now. I was like, I have a thing with birds. And when I was like, oh, Valkyries, I was like, that's a bird. I was like, no, it's not. But I love that I was called to it because I was like, oh, it's a bird. That's my jam. And I was all, I have no idea what it actually is. And that's my favorite. Like, if I just feel it and it feels right, like in my soul, it was just calling to me. And I was like, what is this? And then I was like, I don't know what it is, but it's saying all the right things and it's pushing all the right buttons. And now I have to go do that, whatever it is. Um, so that was my favorite part that I was like, I have no idea what this is, but everything that you were saying online, and I had met you a year before at Alina's thing. So it was like I knew you, the way that you were speaking about Valkyries just basically spoke to my soul.
Mm.
Um, and then I was super, super excited about um basically I had some trauma around like women and women's groups. And I had some fear. I had some trauma and some fear there. And, you're always like, oh, I'm working on my thing. I'm doing my thing. But it also felt like nothing was really working or healing that trauma for me. So when I found Valkyries, just everything just seemed to click for me personally. I felt like it was that for everyone, but the being in community was so huge for me. And I've done like one-on-ones. Most of my group stuff is like body movement group stuff. So to do like soul alignment group stuff was fucking killer. I was all, oh God, yes, this is the thing that I had been searching for for a long time. It felt like a really long time. I would feel like I would like dive into it, and like Alina is like my other person that I'm like, yes, this is the right feeling. This is like the wavelength. This is like the vibe that I'm looking for. Um, so when I saw your thing, it was such a fuck yes for me. I was like, I don't even need to know what this is. I just know it's right.
Mm.
So that was huge for me. Like when I have that feeling and I like really know, I'll just dive in. And being witnessed in community was such an evolution for me because I don't think it's a weird thing. Like I do burlesque, right? So I feel like I have all these people witnessing me, right? So I get like a taste of that feeling from burlesque for sure. But there's this interesting like veil or cloud over burlesque that feels, I'm going to use the word fake a little bit because you're putting on a persona, you're using a
Sure.
different name. I definitely step into my power when I step into Cybil Unrest and when I do burlesque, but it's different than stepping into my power as Heather, as her, as my feminine, right? And feeling sovereign. in that.
Mm.
And that was what I was missing, because I was getting a lot of, from burlesque, I was getting a lot of that feeling and that part that I needed. But I wasn't getting it as Heather.
Mm.
So for me, it was huge because I felt like that's what I was searching for, like that's what I needed. I felt like kind of split. I'm also a Gemini, so that felt kind of normal to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Be split like that. Um, but I was like, oh, Heather needs all these things. I'm like, Cybill's getting a ton of great shit and it's wonderful. And when you look online at me, like my social media, you just see Cybil because Heather hadn't done all her shit yet. So I'm super excited to be coming back because I knew for like almost a year before I started Valkyries that I was like, I need the Heather like wants to come out, like she wants to come out. And my whole shtick is like, I love helping women, I love helping humans become their soul blazing fires, like everything that you say. But I was like, oh, I love this because I do it already through confidence, and I've done it a ton through burlesque. And I've only been doing it for maybe 2 years as Heather. So I love that I have this dynamic that's kind of like a choose your own adventure. But I absolutely love guiding humans to their soul purpose because I loved that. It's like the best experience of my life. So I was like, I absolutely want to share this. And that is my jam to share. I'm already sharing. So I'm like so excited to share Valkyries and just more of like how you can be like a fucking badass sovereign human.
Mm.
Yeah, it's like right up my it just lights me up. It makes me sweaty.
Yeah.
I'll be like, oh, anything that just like tickles you in that spot and you get it feels like I feel when I'm about to go on stage when you get like all nervous and sweaty. And there's this part of me that's like, oh, this is how I know I'm like in the right spot
Mm.
because I actually feel it in my body. Like that's that whole thing where it's like when I saw you, I just knew like I didn't really need a definition of Valkyries. I just knew like in my bones, like in my body, like in my soul, it was like, this is the thing you're supposed to do. And I'm just so glad that I trust myself enough to do that because sometimes you'll want to fight that. You'll
Mm.
want to be like, oh, I don't know. I don't know what it is. You get like really heady where you're like, I need more explanation. I need to know exactly what I'm stepping into. And I absolutely love to just be like, I don't fully know what this is, but it feels fucking right and I trust it. So I'm gonna step into it. And that's something that I fucking love about Valkyries. It's like when you see a trailer and you've seen like too much, you're like, well, that's the whole movie. You're like, do I really need to go see it now? You know? So I feel like with Valkyries, you're like, I don't know. I don't understand this trailer, but I'm so fucking going to this movie. And of course, now that I've done it, when I see everything that you write, I'm like, yeah, totally. I totally understand exactly what you're talking about.
So,
Um, yeah, so it's an interesting thing where I'm like, I don't know why it wasn't like fully clicking when I was first seeing it. It was probably just a me thing. Because there's like this part of you that wants to deny things that you want or need, you
for
know?
sure. Yeah.
Tries to like be all, this is actually this and not that thing that you need. Um, so for me, it was actually very helpful to be like, I don't know what's happening. I'm just doing it. If I think too much about it, I might, conjure up something that's not even true about it,
Mm.
like
Mm. Mm.
as humans.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is great advice actually for anybody that's listening and I mean we're all familiar with that those little parts that come up that are like, well, actually, like maybe it's not the right time. I don't understand it. I don't really know if it's for me. Like this one particularly, like if Valkyrie's calls, she's calling for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm just so glad that I trusted that.
Yeah.
Um, I do tend to trust my body, but I absolutely will just start spinning the wheels of my mind in my head and then we'll overthink things and overanalyze things. So like working with you, I was like, and I love dance. I love expressing through my body and feeling my body. So it was so magical for me And it was like a duh moment of like, oh yeah, you need to bring it back to your body and run it through your body.
Mm.
And I do trust my body and I do listen to my body. And I say it all the time, like, I'm like, you always have to listen to your body. You have to honor your body. It's telling, it's telling you things. And I'm normally talking about like, don't injure yourself, like don't hurt yourself while we're
Right.
stretching or doing something crazy in class. Um, so it was so like a duh moment. I was like, oh, I know this. I've just been doing it more on the physical side instead
Mm.
of like spiritual, like soul on fire side,
Yeah.
because that's what Valkyries like unleashed in me was that I am so much more in tune with my body. Like you'll like I was like, oh, I'm so in tune with my body. Like I'm a dancer, like I do all these things, whatever. And I was like, oh, this is like 100 levels more deep
Mm.
in tune with my body and listening to her. I also was so excited because I presented as where I'm like, oh, I feel like very like masculine, like always like leaning forward, always like I'm a power through this. And I feel like a powerhouse. But I didn't really realize how much I was just like living in the masculine because burlesque is so vulnerable and feminine to me.
Yeah.
But I was absolutely leading with masculine. So it was so lovely in Valkyries to like marry those two in a beautiful dance. To me, it's like a dance of the masculine and the feminine. And if one is leading, then that's the one that's leading when it should be that like fun, mushy, like dancing, like sharing, like rolling on the ground and just feeling like very equal and entwined.
Mm. Love that.
That was super helpful for me because it's like I knew I was kind of leading masculine and I was like, but I'm totally getting feminine over. I got that. I mean, it's there.
Yeah.
I didn't feel like I was like in touch with it like I am now from going through Valkyries. So that was also like such a woo moment for me that I was all yes. And it just landed in my body like fucking perfect. So
Awesome.
I loved that about Valkyries. And I had so much fun in Valkyries and I knew like right away that I was all I have to do this again. And honestly, it's because a fear came up in me where I was like, if I'm not having these like weekly meetings and like this homework and showing up for my community, I don't want to lose this, you
Mm.
know? And so to me, it felt like if I don't do this again, I'm gonna lose it, which is crazy because it's ingrained in my body now. Like I feel it and I do the practices all the time.
Yeah.
But it was one of those things where I feel like you tell someone to do something and they'll do it real good for like 2 weeks, maybe a month.
Yeah.
And then it's like the accountability. It's like having an accountability partner, but way fucking better because it's a community of sovereign badass bitches. So I'm just like, yes, sign me up.
Yeah. 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 The the depth that sorry, this is a really weird itch on my back. I'm like, what am I doing? The depth that Valkyries holds is unique for the society that we live in also. So yeah, I mean, for me as well, there's a it doesn't even feel like it's coming from a scarcity place of like, oh God, like I'm gonna lose this, I'm not gonna have it, but it's actually like a need for women to be this deep together.
Yeah, it's like a deep calling. It's like your gut, like your root, like the part that even just like dives down deep into the earth is just like, bitch, you better be doing that shit. Because it's like, but definitely our society sort of is like, no, no, don't do that woo woo weird stuff. And then you get labeled like a crazy person or something. They're like, whoa, that bitch is crazy. When the reality is it feels really good and you're super sovereign, you're standing in your power. Like I was having a conversation with a friend of mine and I was like, there's something about all of the fear that happens or the doubt or the little voices in the back of your head, but when you are aligned and your soul is on fire and you are sovereign and you feel it anything can come at you and it doesn't matter because life's not going to stop coming. Crazy shit's not going to stop coming at you. And people that don't feel quite as well about themselves are absolutely like when you put yourself out into the world, people may try to attack you. And I've never really felt that. Um, but the person I was talking to sort of had that happening. And you can get really in your head about that. And it's not, it's like when I feel the way that I feel when my soul is on fire, I'm like, oh, step to me. Go ahead. I would love to have that conversation with you because I know who I am. I know where I'm going. I know what I'm doing. And you can't take my birthday away. So there's pretty much nothing you can do to me.
Right. Can't take my
Like
birthday away.
there's really nothing you can do to me. So it was a really interesting conversation because it clicked for me that like when you are aligned, when you are there, when you are that sovereign and that grounded, anything can be happening around you and you'll be able to either take action if you need to, hold space, whatever it is that needs to happen in this situation, you can really tap into that
Mm.
flow because you're basically tapped into yourself. You're tapped into your own energy. You're tapped into like the universe is what it feels like. So for me, it was this really fun conversation that I had with my friend where I was like, wow, it's almost like when you take drugs and you can see like all the fractals and like how everything like connects.
Totally.
So when you are fully in your power, you see how everything connects. And it's like, it was this moment of I was like, there's really no issues.
Mm.
There's no problem. Like, as long as you're able to stay open and curious and honest with yourself and able to like admit where you're like, wow, I was wrong about that, or like, wow, let's think about that a different way. You can really pretty much solve anything that way.
Mm. Mm.
So it's really fun to have that conversation. And it really felt like the like sovereignty and the alignment and the community that I got from Valkyries helped me to see like that fractal pattern and just how it all fits together. So I love that. That's like
So good.
that's magic.
Yeah. Yeah, that is magic. Yeah, so rad. Yeah, I in my copy I'll use the word unshakable often. This is what I'm talking about. This
Yeah.
like life happens. Life is going to continue lifing and happening. But to have your own back, really, like to hold your ground and know where you are within yourself. There is a like, yeah, bring it.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah, I love that. Unshakable is like the perfect definition. Unshakable, unstoppable, just like grounded, rooted, like in your element. Yeah, like standing in her, in your power,
yeah.
however you identify that. But yeah, it is definitely like unshakable. But I love the like stay curious part because I'm a very curious person by nature. Um, so I love that I can stand in that power and then be like, yes, come bring something to me. Like, I want you to try to change my mind. Like,
Mm,
I want to have that conversation because it makes me more solid in whatever my view is or wherever I'm going, like whatever path I'm on. And so I love that when you can have like a really good conversation with someone where they're like, have you ever thought about it like this? Or you can say that to them like, ooh, have you ever thought about that like this? So I love the stay curious part of it really helps me. Um, yeah, it's fucking awesome. It's definitely magic. It's definitely magic
yes, it is.
to do that. I feel like a lot of people are just like floating around in the world doing their thing, and not very grounded. Like I've definitely done that. I definitely like been like, oh yeah, there was definitely some years where I was just floating. It's almost
Mhm.
like being in a coma and you're not grounded and you're not centered and you're not standing in your sovereignty. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, this is something that I see like pre-Valkyries versus post-Valkyries in women all the time, especially after we when we come together in physical at retreat. There's it's like a downshift in the body. Like I look around and all of these women around me are like the voice actually drops a little bit lower. Um, you particularly have this softness and like your eyes are brighter now than pre-Valkyries. And there's this groundedness that comes through. It's a it's a natural result of Valkyries. I've seen it in every woman that goes through this program. It's amazing, but it's this like palpable, almost tangible, like energetically tangible for sure, but like definitely visual and felt sense of like I'm fucking here.
Yeah.
I'm embodied, I'm solid, I'm unshakable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like when you go to a party or something, you're trying to pretend like you're like, I hope no one actually looks at me or talks to me or sees me or something like that, compared to going to a party where you're like, let's all sit down in a circle and just like be us and be real and like hold hands and just like go for it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So it's like a huge difference between like, I'm gonna hang out on the wall and just like jumping in, sitting on the floor, like just diving onto the floor, like, let's go, ladies. Like, which is a beautiful feeling. It's also an interesting thing to be like, oh, you have like fair weather friends, right? So there's a difference between the two. You're like, oh, hi, how's it going? Like, nice to see you. Like, I know you. We've seen each other a hundred
Yeah.
times, but you don't actually know them, which is wild and crazy. And then you have like, for me, it's like the people that you can be your authentic self with, like your weirdest, freakiest, fucking actual self with.
Yeah.
Um, and there's definitely people who are like, oh no, I would never, swear around them or act a certain way or and you just like that's not really my type. I don't really feel like I have a filter. I'm not the best at always using my filter, but I also just don't enjoy it. Like I don't enjoy like filtering myself or
Mm.
dumbing it down.
Yeah.
Even though there's definitely I don't know if I'd say definitely. I think there's sometimes a place for that.
Mhm.
I'm sure it's out there. I can't think of anything at the moment. It's not really my jam, but the feeling that you get of that compared to like, oh my God, like these are my people, these are my chosen family. Like there was something that you said in Valkyries. It was like, I think it was like, who would you stand on the top of a mountain and like kill for, or like draw a sword for at least, right? Something like that.
Yeah, what hill would you die on?
Yeah. And
Hmm.
then like, but why? Like, what would you die for? And I was like, wow, I don't think I've ever been asked this question. And the reality is it's my community. There's no physical thing that I would die for. It was a weird thing where I wanted to, like, the word that kept coming to me was like freedom. And what that means is like freedom to be ourselves, to stand in our sovereignty, to be as weird as we want, to practice magic, to have a strong community. And I was like, that is what I would draw my sword for.
Mm. Fuck yeah, me too.
Yeah. So, and I was like, I was so glad that you asked that question. I was like, no one has ever asked me because I'm always like, oh, I pick bugs up and put them outside. I'm like, I don't kill things. I've never thought about like, what? I've never been like, where would I go to that dark place for?
Mm.
And so I was like, where would I? Because I was like, I'm not sure that I would. And then I was like, sat there, ran it through my body, and I was like, for this, for every woman that's in this room right now, and everyone that thinks, acts, and feels the same way as we do, I would fight for that. Fuck yeah.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
I'm covered in goosebumps.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Um there's a funny thing about the depth of Valkyries versus the kind of fair weather friends, which is fine. Like that's just a having fair
Yeah.
weather friends is another part of life. Like it's another dynamic, you know. Um, but in the fair weather or like the shallower communications, which I'm so bad at. Like you want to have a conversation like down here about the depths of your soul, like I'm fucking there. But talking about like oh, the weather and like whatever the fair weather
Yeah.
stuff is, it's like the most awkward you will ever see my human. I'm so bad at it. Anyway, the funny thing about the depth of Valkyries is that you guys end up knowing each other on a deep, deep level. Like you get to know each other's deepest fears and shadows and the parts internally that feel like they could never be loved and are so ugly. Like I could never let it out. Everyone will hate me or think that I'm gross or inappropriate or whatever. Like you guys get to know each other there, and it's almost like the top level. Again, like no judgment with like depth here, but the top like surface level life stuff um, we never learn about. So like getting together body to body, and then all of a sudden you're like oh my God, you have a husband, or like you
It's
have
true.
a
You have a
you
dog?
have a dog, you work at a dentist's office, like
Right. You're
the
like, oh, there's these other things you do in your life,
right.
but they kind of like don't matter because you're like, we're swimming in the deep right now. So you're
Yeah,
like, I'm not seeing all these things that are up here.
yeah,
Because like we're down here like holding hands, swimming in the deep.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Really the only
No, it
place.
is. It's super amazing. Like you were saying, it's a crazy thing, the community, the witnessing, um, the sharing, the like letting out of all of those things that you think are bad about yourself. And then to throw them into community and then hear everyone else's story and be like, oh shit, we're like the same. We all have like the same thing, slightly different story.
Mm,
And I think that's another thing that it's like, it just weaves it tighter where you're like, yes, bitch, you know what I'm talking about. Because that's what it like, and you feel it on that level, and like you just understand each other more.
yeah.
And I think on the surface level, you try to pretend like you don't have that deep stuff.
Mm,
And Valkyries were like celebrating that deep stuff. And that was something that really hit my heart hard and was extremely helpful was there's a lot of fluff out there that's like, oh, like get rid of your dark stuff, pretend like you don't have it,
right.
shove it even further down or something. It might not be saying exactly that, but it feels like that.
Yeah.
And I like the bringing it to the surface and celebrating it and sharing it in the community because you're able to, for me, I was able to like process it more and understand it more and be like, yeah, that's a fucking part of me. And we're ride or die homies now, me and my weird
Right.
deep shit. So
Yeah. Yeah.
like this is what I bring to my table. There's some deep shit in there, some weird shit. Like
Yeah.
that's me.
I love ride or die homies with your shadowy bits. That feels so good. Because that's really what's happening is yeah, whether the verbiage is like shove that down or repress it or don't feel that or um there's lots of ways we could take this, but it's also just like ingrained in society, to like kind of sever that part of self that like the dark weird one or the one that loves to be alone, the one that like really gets off on isolation or being abandoned or scarcity or whatever the shadowy piece is. Um, but yeah, the key is really like creating a ride or die relationship with it. And
Yeah.
like, yeah, we're homies now.
Yeah.
And there's this like hilarious paradox is that when that happens, everything becomes unified.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like in my brain, I'll see like that scene from I think it's like the Zoolander movie where him and all his homies get in the Jeep and then like that terrible song comes on and they're all like drinking coffees and like dancing like outside the type. And I was like, yeah, that's like me and all the weird shit in my body, like all the fun stuff, the deep stuff. I was like, we're all just sometimes we just gotta jump in a Jeep and we just gotta be weird and like put on a song and fucking just bang it out.
Totally.
It's like that's a scene that comes like in my head where I'm like, oh yeah, that's me and my homies.
Good. Hell yeah. You had so at the beginning of this, you had said that you had some trauma about women and like women's groups. And I'm just curious, you can name it if you want to, or not, but I'm curious what has shifted in that department for you, like what your initial fears were or what you had experienced previously and how that changed in Valkyries for you.
Yeah, that is an amazing question. Um, Without going into all of the traumas, but I think what happened previously was I had a trauma and then another trauma and another trauma, and then I was like, that's it. Like I'm done.
Done with
And
women.
so for women, I would always be like, ooh, like one door out. I'm like, I'm just waiting for you to come and put and shove the knife in. I'm like, when's the knife coming? I'm like, at some point, knife's gonna come out and you're gonna stab me. And that was how I approached women, whether that was like really obvious to me or not. It became very obvious after going through Valkyries and, searching deep inside where I would walk into a relationship with a woman being like, when are you going to hurt me?
Yeah.
And now I am able to walk in to a relationship with a woman and be like, let's sit on the floor and just be real. Like, please come to me. If I'm wiling out, if you're wiling out, like, I want that, the same thing that we have in Valkyries. So I now approach women in that way.
Mm.
And that's, to me, that's like the first distinct difference of how it was before is whether I was totally aware of it. I was approaching women almost on a shallow surface where I was like, whatever you do, don't get deep because they're going to stab you.
Yeah.
That was like how my body was reacting. Um, and even if I do, because, I'm a human, and even though I've worked on all of that, when I do find myself in a relationship with a new woman, that little part of my body might come up where I'm like, don't go too deep. And then I instantly go, no, 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 let's go.
Mhm.
Like, stay curious, like, stay open, stay vulnerable. Like, it's a hard thing to do, but I trust women now. I think my trust with women had been severed, and I didn't think that I could have it again.
Yeah.
And I absolutely have it now with Valkyries. And because of that, I can now be open and vulnerable with women. And in these other women's defense, that I felt like I created a pattern, and it was also my fault for staying on the surface with them. I wasn't like, let's dive deep. Like, let's go. Like, let's be fucking ride or die homies. You can't be ride or die homies, I don't think, if you're up here. You're fair weather friends then.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so yeah, almost everything that we just talked about is how that fixed the trauma for me and how I'm different and how I show up different for women now. And I fucking love it.
Yeah.
It's like the best thing that's ever happened to me in my entire life. Because I would have just kept banging out surface level, like, I'm afraid of you. When I first meet you, I'm already afraid. I don't even have to do anything. I'm afraid.
Yeah.
And so now I'm able to be like, hi, this is awesome. I want a huge group of women. Like, let's go. So it's completely different how I approach women. And that is what Valkyries gave to me for sure.
So good.
100%.
Cool. Wow,
Yeah.
it was so interesting to just watch your body language, your physical and your energetic body as you were talking about the different kinds of relationships you've had with women, where you were talking like the before and going into relationship with women like guarded or scared or like if I go deep I'm gonna get hurt, um, which is that I know that we've all experienced that. And certainly before I did this work in me that then became Valkyries, I was like even anti-woman. I was like, can I join a men's group? Actually, that I would love to do that. But when you were talking about that like I'm gonna get hurt, like I might even get stabbed. Your body like
Mhm.
was um
Yeah.
like curved around like the possible impact.
Yeah.
And talking about what shifted now, you've like leaned forward and you're like, yeah, we're going in. Like I feel the any walls in you drop and your heart immediately opens. So it was really neat to feel your energy body move through that.
Ooh, awesome. Yeah, I like it. I mean, I love moving my body. So that was something that when you're like, we're going to be moving our bodies, we're going to be doing this also like, yeah, totally.
Mhm, mhm.
Because I think that can be like just moving your body can be difficult for people. Some people
Yeah.
have. So that was, I loved that part of it. I was like, oh, this is so my jam.
Yeah. There was there was a subtlety that I was tracking in you during our last Valkyries. And the subtlety was in movement, in embodiment, in dance and moving energy through your body. And my what I was curious about, like, let's see what's in here, was because obviously, like you teach movement, you embody movement, you like are movement. Your also your body is often in motion. Um, but for you, like you already came embodied and you came with the movement piece, but there was this subtlety that was um like I'm moving, I'm dancing, I'm feeling, I'm being seen, like whether that's dance or burlesque. Um, but the shift in being aware, I'm trying to see if I can put my finger on it, and I'm not sure. I don't know, we'll find out. Um, and yeah, the shift into actually feeling like being with the energy as it's being processed through your body, like as you're moving it through your body. And it was really beautiful to watch you also play in that subtlety.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Um, it was definitely important for me to hear when you were like, you're not, we're calling it like a dance, or we would use the word dance, but really the word is more movement because when it's coming, like in a dance class, it's like point your toes, be perfect, like have this alignment in your body or something like perfect lines of arms and legs and stuff. Um, but when you're moving energy through your body, it's a completely different feeling, style, type of movement.
Mm,
It's like you can call it dance, but I like to call it movement. And it's almost like moving, like you're moving something through your body.
mhm.
And so your body's not going to make these perfectly beautiful shapes. It's going to make the shape that your body needs to make. Kind of like
Mhm.
when you're saying when I was like, oh, I'm watching out for like the knife, but then
Yeah.
when I'm fully open and accepting, it's this more like, oh, it's like an exhale, like a relax. So it was super fun to play with movement in that style and actually get in touch with my body completely different way than
Yeah.
dance. I feel like dance sometimes is like an outward, like expressing out and trying to make your body really big, like a see me, see me, see me thing.
Mm, mhm, mhm.
Um, where when you're moving energy through your body, it can be really small, really slow, like even laying on the ground or laying on your bed and just very small movements, which was actually profound to me
Yeah.
to move smaller, to change the way your body moves by the way that your body feels
Yeah.
compared to like trying to like outwardly show some like show someone something. Let me show you something. Let me show you something.
Sure.
To like let me feel something
Yeah.
and let me understand like what's happening in my body with breath and with slowing it down. I'm a very hyper like high. I'm a up here energy person. So when I get grounded, I have such a huge capacity to just like hold and love and share. And it's so beautiful to move energy through your body. To me, it's completely different than dance.
Yeah.
You're doing it when you dance. And some people might even be doing it the way I'm describing right now, but the way we would do it in Valkyrie is to move energy, to move emotion, to get back into alignment, to help your nervous system, completely different style
Yeah.
of movement that's
Yeah.
so beautiful and like calming, and it resets you. Where I feel like a lot of the dance I was doing was like a stress relief, like a shake it off.
Mm.
Let's just
Mhm.
shake it off and
Yeah.
fling it out there because I don't want it anymore or something
Mm.
like that.
Mm.
Because I go to a dance class 3 days a week, and like that's what I'm doing. It's like I call it my church. To just because I don't think about anything and I just move my body till I'm like pouring sweat and I'm like, fuck yes, at the end, right?
Yeah.
Completely different to like laying on the floor, getting in touch with yourself and being like, oh shit, I need to cry right now. Like I didn't even know that about myself until I laid on the floor and checked in. And my body was like, listen. And that's a completely different type of release.
Mm.
It's like a release of some stuff that your soul needs to let go of compared to like, I feel like it was just body for me.
Mhm.
And what Valkyries gave me was like a soul behind that type of movement.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
so
I feel like the difference um that like when you're moving and when you are embodied, the difference is subtle and it's also really, really large. And that is actually feeling. It's like actually feeling what's moving through. So there's a uh feeling of emotion and feeling of energy, and that's what gets through. But like that's it sounds so small and it's so, so massive.
yeah, it's profound.
Yeah.
There's definitely where, and it was definitely interesting as a dancer where I was like, oh, I thought I was doing this, or like I thought I was already feeling this or going there.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, because you build routine, your body builds muscle memory even. So like as a dancer, it was this thing where I'm like, oh, my body's used to doing it like this. So it was so freaking cool to be like, no, slow it down, actually feel it. Like you're not trying to just push something out right now. You're trying to understand, to be here,
Mm.
to be sitting in the deep and just
Mhm.
feeling it and like letting whatever wants to bubble up
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
like
And to show
super good.
you
Yeah.
how to move.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was like so exciting and fun.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
I love that.
Um, there's a there's a question. This is for everybody that's listening. There's this question that I like to ask of myself, first and foremost, always, and also of whatever it is that I'm leading, Valkyries or Valkyries, etc. And that is a check-in with your heart and like, how's your heart? Like, what's the quality of your heart? What's here? And then I'll pause and ask again, like, what's actually here? And when you drop into this lower layer, it's like uh, yeah, the lower layer of the heart. Like that one is the one that there's always something there. There's always
Oh yeah.
something that's watery or fiery or like, like crack me open. Um, so yeah, it's again, there's just like this subtle, loud piece that's like, this is true. Like it's true. Like my heart's tender, my heart feels soft, my heart feels slow, my heart feels sad. And then underneath, there's this whole fucking ocean of how your heart actually is.
It's true. I feel like 9 times out of 10 you would ask it and then ask it again and then I would just start crying. I'd be like, oh, there it is.
Mm.
Like, yeah, it's there.
Mhm.
Um, so I love that. And thank you for the reminder because I was like, ooh, I need to be doing that when I lay there and slow down and I'm getting in
Mm.
touch. I need to ask about my heart more.
Yeah,
Because
and like I said,
every time I would just be like waterworks. I'd be like, oh, there's the heart. It's
yeah. And yeah, like I said, this is a question I ask of myself too in my own practice, my own I have 15 minutes in the afternoon or my morning practice or whenever I make the space for myself. I sit down and I'm like breathing and feeling my body and I'm like, what's here? Like what needs to move? And then there's I think it's probably my masculine actually is like, hey Carl, like what's actually there? And every time I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah. It's so fun. I love it. You got to go deep. And it's definitely not something that you learn. It's like you know it, but the guidance of like Valkyries and being in community, um, it's just like for me, I'm like, that's where it's at. Like that was what I needed.
Yeah.
Because I definitely felt like I was doing it. And then I was like, oh, now I'm doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so we have 10 minutes left together. I would love if you would just speak to any woman who's listening to this and is like, man, I really feel this. I feel the calling. But whatever her butt is, just speak to her. Like, what do you want her to know?
Valkyries is your new home that you haven't walked through the door of yet. Um, from my own personal experience, I can promise you that once you walk through the door of Valkyries and you sit with this circle of powerful beings that I have been searching for and was not able to find on my own, once you do that, once you make that leap, once you jump off that scary cliff that you feel like you're going to fall, I promise that you're just falling into like the most beautiful, ooey gooey home of your freaky people that you have been looking for your entire life. And you didn't know they were there, but there they are. And they're just down there waiting for you to jump.
Great.
That's what I would say.
You're freaky people. I love it. I
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah.
Cool. Um, so you are coming back. You're coming back for Valkyrie 6. And just a little future drop for those of you that don't know. I am I am creating, not as we speak, because we're speaking and I'm not doing it, but essentially as we speak, I'm creating a um Valkyrie's method that I call somatic alchemy. I'm creating a coaching certification program so that for the women that go through this program and they're like, holy shit, this changed my life. I want to offer this to other women in your own way, of course. Um, that is coming down the line. And so I feel that Heather will be joining us for that as well.
Yes.
So Valkyrie's um, Nevada City, Valkyries, Nevada.
Yes. Yeah.
Coming soon to Nevada
Yeah.
City near you.
Get ready.
Yeah, Heather, I'm I'm feeling your like your soul calling, your soul on fire, your mission. Um, what do you see for yourself moving forward that came through Valkyries? Like what is the work that is unraveling in you starting to feel and look like?
Oh my God, I love this question. Well, I was like, what a good question. I'm like, oh, on the spot. Um, I know that I will be coaching. I really want to do groups. I excel with groups. Totally down to do one-on-one, of course. But I want to be coaching very much in the style that you are coaching with Valkyries, which is why I'm like, I know I will be taking your coaching program for sure, because it's absolutely the way that my body is like already wired.
Mm.
So I know that that's coming in my future. And when we first talked, in the very beginning of Valkyries, I was like, oh my God, I have to burn it all down to start this new thing.
Yeah.
So I very much so still have that. I will be leaving my muggle life and going into my Valkyrie coaching life. Like I know that's coming. Like I knew that right away when you first said it. I was like, yes, because that's what I would have been doing anyway. But this is even better because it would be with you, all these same women that I already love and adore. And then we just make our community bigger.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a absolute 100% fuck yes for me because it's already the direction that I was going. Because I've already been coaching confidence and burlesque for like 15 years. And while that's fun and I love that, and I will probably still continue to do that on some level, after Valkyries and be you can't go back to the surface level once you've dived
No,
deep
you
into
can't.
your soul and
Yeah,
into your
spoiler
souls.
alert. You can't go back.
You can't go back.
You can't go
You
back.
can't be like, hold on while I swim up. I'm like, I don't need any air. I need to be down here. This is where I live now. So yeah, I already knew that I was going that way, and it was just like like Valkyries was like the accelerated path to like, oh, I'm there. I'm doing this now. So that's where I'm going. I was already going there, but I feel like I'm going there faster
Cool.
with
Great.
more like clarity and depth.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, it is also the purest of my intentions to when just while we're on this, I want to say this. Um as you, Heather, and then anyone else who's listening that will also go through Valkyries and then Valkyries coaching certification. I my part of my mission in this world is for all of you to lead your soul lives, your soul led lives. And that means that the way that you hold, the way that you teach, is going to be different than mine. And like my gifts, my channel are different than your gifts in your channel, right? And so I really like as I'm building this out, it's a deep intention of mine to hold the energetic space for every single woman that's going to offer this through her eventually. That she's also, it's like it's coming through her vessel, through her channel, in the way that you are meant to move through the world. So for you, that might look like there's even more movement, or there like it's like a Valkyrie's burlesque mashup, or like I have a client who's an astrologer. So like how does Valkyries come through the lens of astrology? But really the fundamentals of Valkyries is somatics and energetics, is like moving energy through your body. And that can come through any lens, any lens. So yeah, I'm really lit about that and totally stoked to have you, even though we haven't made it yet. I know you'll be there.
It's true.
Okay. Anything else? Anything else you want to offer? Anything else that's here for you?
Just thank you.
Mm.
Oh, I have so much, thank you. I have so much gratitude for you and for you to have already gone through all of this and then to be sharing it with the world. Um, I love that. And thank you for doing that. And I'm so fucking excited to be a part of it and to do it my way, but with all of you. Like I feel like that's really where the deep dark juice is.
It's like where grape juice becomes wine, the deep
Yeah.
dark juice.
Deep dark juice.
Great. Heather has a 15% discount for anyone
Yes.
who comes through Heather. When you check out, when you're a yes to Valkyries and you go to our checkout page and you're checking out, that was a clunky way to say that. Just use the code Heather and you get 15% off. You can apply it to either a pay in full or your monthly payment plan. So you have that. That's fucking cool.
Yes.
And yeah, it's like get up and go time because we
Yeah.
start in a week and a
Start
half.
in like 10 days. So just it's time to jump.
Yeah, it's time to
Yeah.
jump. It's time to
Come
jump.
get into the wine puddle with us.
Great. Heather, thank you so much.
Yay, thank you.
You're so welcome. All right. So much love to everyone, and I'll see you
Yeah.
all soon.
Yay.